Okay, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Career to Entrepreneur webinar series. I aim to do one of these webinars every 2 weeks just to help people who are part of the Great Resignation or just feeling that they need to get out of corporate and start their own business, to help them make that shift from career to entrepreneur without risking their financial nest egg. Like I say, it's the safer way to launch a new start. And in today's webinar, I'm going to look specifically at, is this right for you? A lot of people are still thinking about, is this right for them? And it's a difficult decision to make, but I'm sure this webinar will make things much easier. Webinar will be quite simple. I'm just going to share my philosophy with you, how I think about businesses, how I approach them. Then we're going to address, can I do it? Is this the right thing for me? And where do I start? And then we'll switch over to a Q&A. If you have any questions there, just wait until the Q&A. But if in the moment you think that you'll forget about the question, just pop it in the chat. I'll go through the chat and look at everything there. Before we start, just a quick background about myself. I've been an entrepreneur for more than 22 years. I'm an international speaker on leadership, innovation, and entrepreneurship. I'm one of about 20 people who can do the well sought after Inside Risk Leadership Program. I have my master's degree in IT, 26 years experience in online, as well as a single father. Like I said in a previous webinar, the day before lockdown, my son and I had to move out the house. Well, we moved out. I just fresh out of a divorce, lost my business because I didn't pay attention to it during the divorce. I was in debt. We moved. I had one client left with enough money to pay for the first month's rent and didn't have rent for the next month. So the day the lockdown started, I had to start building a new business. That said, I had a 2-year plan to be out of debt. I had about $350,000 in debt and to have 5 months overheads cash in the bank. I achieved that 2-year goal in 7 months. The October, I shot through that. And since then, my business has been growing. So even if I can do it in that harsh environment, with that challenging environment, sure, you can do this as well. This forms part of a book that I'm busy writing. I see a lot of people having questions about this stuff. And the book's title will be The Ultimate Career to Entrepreneur Survival Guide. And it'll be practical advice. It's not one of those read the whole book first. It's short snippets where you can get more information. What should I do? What should I avoid? Especially the mistakes, the expensive ones I've made, so you can avoid them as well. How to reduce your risk, obviously, and increase your success. But before we start, I want to share with you my philosophy around business, and that ties very much in with, can I do it? And what's going to come later. But my philosophy is simple. There's a co-creational relationship between you, the business, and the customer. Okay. If you look at books, you listen to speakers, and you listen to all these other people, it's put the customer first. Do everything for the customer. And you will see you feature nowhere. With my model, you are the starting point. There needs to be a co-creational relationship between you, the business, and the business owner and the customer. Because in the intersection between you and the business, that's where you have financial stability, a legacy, and control. Because your business needs to give you the time, the money, and the opportunities to live the life that you want to do. And by working with customers, that's where you get your personal growth, you live your purpose, and you get your joy and passion from. And between the customer and the business, that's where you get to help people grow your business and open up more opportunities. On the intersection where it's personal growth and live your purpose, I've started a business to find a girlfriend. I got engaged to the wrong woman. She got engaged to the wrong man, but still I did that. I had a t-shirt business, newspaper. I did stage shows. I won national marketing awards for the work that I've done. So for me, always business is a platform for self-exploration more than just a business. If you just do it for the money's sake and not as a way to express yourself, I think you you might be heading in towards the wrong direction. So let's get into it. Can I do it? So if they can do it, so can you. And so who are these they people that I refer to? So yesterday, this is me in Diepsloot here in Johannesburg. It's a previously disadvantaged area. It's not a very nice area. And here I am to help unemployed youth to start a business in 5 weeks with customers making enough money to financially sustain themselves. These are young people with little or no resources. No funding gets provided to start a business. They have to sort everything out themselves. If they can do it in those conditions, what can you achieve with your knowledge, your experience, your networks that you have available to you? Now, one thing you might say, okay, Willem, that's fine, but they have little to lose. I'm quite risk averse, and that's fine. It's not that I wake up early in the morning and go, I'm going to have a bowl of risk for breakfast. No, I try to avoid that because I'm a single father. I even had a chat with a friend and a previous person that I coached, and they do 40 billion rand in size projects, one at a time. And I asked him one day, do you like taking risks? He says, I hate risk. I avoid it as much as possible. The point is, it doesn't matter. I see it. It doesn't matter what your level of risk is. You can start a business within the confines of your risk profile. My favorite way of starting a business is to stand on the edge of a cliff with some aluminium and some bolt cutters or some riveting guns, and I jump off and I build the wings as I fall, but with the least risk possible. So if I fall and I build the wings, that I don't lose my financial nest egg. You don't have to do the same thing because you don't have to jump from one edge of the room to the other side of the room. You can't do that. That's a large jump. What you need to do is small, little steps. So you step forward, you stop, sense, make sense of the situation, analyze, take action. Step forward, stop, sense, make action. That's how you do it slowly. So where I might take 3 or 4 risky moves per annum, you might do 52, one a week, where you move slightly forward, slightly forward, slightly forward. Move within the confines of your risk profile. That is a very important thing. And then people start asking, but Willem, what about funding? Okay, I'm not a big fan of the word funding. Because for me, when I hear funding, is first of all, it's going to take a couple of months. Second of all, you're probably just selling an idea. And the third thing that I hear is risk, risk, risk. If this fails, and there's a very high chance that your business will fail, then you sit with that added debt to it. Not that I say all businesses can be started without funding. If you're going to start a butchery or retail shop, something like that, obviously you're going to need to have funding. But if you're making the shift from career to entrepreneur, or if you're slowly growing your business, create a business that makes enough money so that you can save it up, and then you can later fund that other business as it goes along. Or the greatest part of that, or just have that cash on hand when things go wrong, that you can do that. I have never applied for funding in my 22 years as a businessman. I've always done it out of my own pocket, and you can do it as cheap as chips. The cheapest way to start a business, and we'll get to that later, you don't need funding at all, and we'll get to that a little bit later. But is this right for me? So here's the question. And that alludes to my philosophy that I had earlier, is entrepreneurship is a lie, because you're being told you're going to escape poverty, reduce inequality, have control of your life, have money and have time and everything else. But what the politicians and the speakers in the books do not tell you is that entrepreneurship is designed to do one thing and one thing only, and that is look after the needs of the customer. If you've ever worked with small business people, entrepreneurs out there, and you look at their life, their working conditions, and their financial stability, you will clearly see that they never got what was promised. and they sit there and suffer in their own freaking businesses. It's almost, I always think about it as a red brick wall. Now in South Africa, old government buildings were built with these ugly red bricks. And you're the cornerstone in that business. But as that business grows and you build it bigger and bigger, so does the bricks in that wall, and the wall gets higher and higher. But you still remain that cornerstone. And that's what your typical entrepreneurship model is, because now I'm dedicated to everything for this business. And the only thing that changes in your life, your position doesn't change, just the amount of pressure and stress placed upon you. And that's when you start having garage pies. You look down, you don't see your feet anymore, and your relationships go. What you need to be is you need to stand on top of that wall as that business grows. Your business is supposed to take you from where you are here to where you want to be. You are a customer in your business. Remember that one. And I'll always say this in every possible webinar. You are a customer in your business. Your business should serve you as much as the customer. If you look at your typical small business person out there, they go to their business and go, "Good morning. What do you want from me? What should I do for you?" And at the end of the month, they go to the business, "Please show me what you have left for me." That's not the right relationship that you have with your business. The relationship you should have with your business is, okay, this is what you need to give me. And if the month comes and it goes like, the business is not giving that to you, why are you not? What's wrong? What's not working in the business? Do I need to innovate this business? Do I need to close it down, or just start a new business? Because if it can't look after my needs, why the hell do I have this business even? So where do you start? The starting point is a very interesting thing. So first of all, do not do the following. Okay, and I've seen that this is a typical thing that I see in South Africa. People go out and they print business cards and they get offices and they get the fancy car and everything. And yet when you ask them, do you have any customers? They go, no. So even if you have all of that, you do not have a business. So what do you need to start a business? You need a customer book. You don't necessarily need a website, the business cards, and all the fancy stuff. All that you need is a customer. And it can start simple. Start with a pen. Go to somebody like, do you need a pen? No. Do you know somebody who needs a pen? Can you take me to them? Cool. Do you need a pen? Do you need a pen? You start selling something. That's the easiest thing that you need to start a business. You start by selling something. And that's the key thing. It's about starting small. I never start big. I start small. How did I build my business so rapidly into a few million during a lockdown? Simple. I emailed 4,000 people. That's what I did. I emailed 4,000 people, and that created the momentum. Did I go and build a website? Did I do fancy, expensive marketing, print some fancy brochure? No. I reached out to people and I connected with them as a person. Those were the small steps that I did. And remember, if you don't have a customer, you don't have any paying customers, you have 8 hours a day to find a customer. I had a chat with somebody a while back, and they told me about where they left their job 2 years ago, and all the marketing that they're doing to get new customers, to get paying customers, and all the work that they do to get customers on board for the past 2 years. And I just asked one simple question: how many paying customers do you have? And they said, nothing, not one. So they left their career and everything else without the paying customer. And in the industry where they were in, they could have started and probably created their monthly salary on the side as a side hustle if they had only started super small instead of just jumping into what they needed there. So this is all that I wanted to cover for today. There's still a lot of other webinars going to come. Here's my email address if you want to drop me an email and ask me about any questions and future stuff that I can do. But if you have a question for me now, you can pop it in the chat, or you can just unmute and ask me. Any questions?
Hey,
Yes, Olive.
what are some things I should look for in the business that I want to start? Even if I'm starting small, what are some factors that would make sure that it does get up and running?
That's a good thing. That's a very good question that you have there. Number one question is stay with the familiar. I've seen many people in corporate being an accountant or something, and next thing they quit their job and they take their financial nest egg and invest it into some restaurant. They have no experience in that industry, nothing like that. And that's a very dangerous game to play. So the odds of what you're going to start, that it might be very similar to the work that you already do, is very high. If you need to start up something very quickly. But if you're going to do a complete career pivot, go into entrepreneurship as well as something new, that's when you have to make super small steps, as small as possible. One example, what I had there with a small step is I get a lot of young black guys in my training that want to start clothing brands, and they need hundreds of thousands to start. And I said, no, you don't. Go buy your competitors' clothing and start selling that. Number one, you're building a customer book. Number two, you know what sells and what doesn't sell. Number three, you reduce your risk. And when you eventually design your own stuff, you know what to design that will sell, and you have a customer base. So that reduces your risk. So stick to the familiar. I wouldn't necessarily go follow your passion. That's sometimes a difficult thing. I think do something that you enjoy doing. The whole passion thing, the base word for passion is to suffer. And I've seen people chase their passions. And it's about, if you can find some type of meaning in the work that you do and a level of expression, I think then you hit the nail on the head. Does that answer your question?
Yes, very well. Thank you.
Cool. Any other questions? Nothing? Is this so amazing that I answered everybody's questions? That is so good. Okay. If that's the case, then I think we can finish up with this, and I'll send the notifications out for all the other webinars, but you're in the mail. But just check if it doesn't go to your spam. Make sure it doesn't go in there. I want to thank you for your time, and have a lovely evening.